This has been Strictly Ball Business.
Strictly ball business.
Strictly ball business.
I like that video.
Balls. Nah, shit.
Well, so let's talk about the Timberwolves. I call it an iffy start. I know they're putting it together. If any other team was 3-2, nobody would be talking. But it's the Timberwolves with the high expectations, and then they lost two games that they should have won, that they needed to win. They need to win these games if they want to get good seeding. I'm curious. What are you thinking about their season so far? They were booed by the fans, which I always think I don't think that's a good thing for fans to do. But go ahead.
Well, I think anytime you're down by 30 going into the fourth quarter against a Spurs team that doesn't have any real stars on it, like you're letting Jeremy Sohan light you up when he dyed his hair gray, like I'm sorry, like you deserve to get booed at that point. And like it drives those guys, and like you're not supposed to be losing to these teams at this point. But they have looked like in their losses and at some point in their wins even that they're just not putting in enough effort, or they're just not together enough as a team. And it just seems like they got together days before the season started, and that was like their first time practicing. It's like, you guys not spend any time together in the off season? Like, it just seems like everybody's trying to do their own thing sometimes. Especially Ants and Cat, they'll try to do the ISO thing to get themselves going if they're struggling early on. And I think in the case of against the Spurs lit them up because the Spurs were playing great team basketball. They were passing it at least 4 or 5 times a possession. And then you would get the polar opposite with the Wolves, where, Anthony Edwards would try an ISO ball or something like that. So I think like that's kind of the main reason for why though they have their losses and why their record is at this point. Certainly think it's early enough where it's not a big deal, and they're going to keep growing together. And I like what I see in Gobert, but I think they also need to give him more substantial opportunities, because sometimes it does turn into like, oh, we need our shots. Like Gobert can just get the rebound and put it up. It's like, well, those aren't effective shots always, and you can get him for some easy lobs every now and then if you just bothered. And one last thing before I give it back to you, but I know we had talked about D'Angelo, Rudy Gobert, and they were going to really impact each other. And I really haven't seen it. Really have not seen it yet on a pick and roll basis, or just from a team passing basis at all from those two. I've seen better playmaking from Cat to Gobert than I have from Russell to Gobert.
Oh, that's interesting, actually. Well, I mean, not as much as the D'Lo part. I got all the numbers for you. You're gonna love them. I was like, I'm gonna deep dive on the stats. He's gonna love all this. It's gonna be great. So we can both agree that I think the most two stable players on this roster have been Noel and Gobert. By far, both of them doing their jobs. I don't think you can ask anything out of either of them. They're both doing as much as they can, right?
I think Gobert could have put some more effort in a couple of games for some of the rebounds, and that is all I will really say on that. But I think Noel's been great as well. And for the most part, I think Gobert's doing fantastic. But I think a lot of guys had struggle putting up effort in a back-to-back.
Yeah. I mean, so I get into more of that too. But I will say I think Cat's really struggling out there. I think there's a lot of... So it's the position change that I think he's just not used to. I mean, when he plays he does better when he's playing at center. Not because of he just looks more comfortable. I don't think he's comfortable in his role yet. I think he will fit into being a power forward and playing next to Gobert. Because I do think he's fully content in just getting all the 3-point shots he's been getting, and he's been able to throw lobs to Gobert, and that we've always talked about playmaking Cat and how it's important. That I think will catch up. I think that'll be fine. There's that other drama about him losing the team. It's no longer his team. Whatever. We're not far enough in the season where I want to care about that. But the advanced numbers say Jalen Noel is the best player on the team. And a lot of people are talking about him and loving him. Great. He deserves it. He's third. He's the third best offensive player per stats, and he's the fifth best defensive player per the stats. He's highest plus minus on the team. He's been great. I think you were not far off when you made him your sixth man of the year.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he's got some good playmaking ability, and he does it so well, driving to the rim and being able to dish it up back out to somebody else, or he does like a spin around Jay, and he can get really creative around the rim. Where they had a guy, Malik Beasley, the last couple of years, and I was just hoping maybe Noel could get as good as him. Like, that was my hopes, but honestly, he looks better than Beasley ever has, even just in these first few games. And Beasley was great, and he had a great 20 game stretch where he was a flamethrower. But I like a guy who can also score inside if the 3-point shot's not falling. And the defense is obviously a huge surprise as well.
Yeah, it's almost he should be put on the floor at the end of games instead of D'Lo at this point, because I'll jump into Cat and D'Lo's defense. It looks completely awful. I hate all of it. This is really what we're seeing, the loss of Pat Bev. And Gobert's great. Does he change your defense? Yes. Does he have arguably a better effect? Yeah, he does, but he's more of a defensive anchor when you think of that stuff. He's gonna just make it and physically make the defense better. Whereas they don't have a defensive leader anymore, which was Pat Bev. You would see him on the court. I know you saw him. He'd be pointing, telling people during the game, they're pointing out rotations. Hey, drop to him. You go to him. No one's doing that. So I was watching the game, I watched D'Lo just stand there, and then his guy just went away, and D'Lo still stood there, swung it over into the corner, wide open three, and D'Lo just catching up. Cat will do the same thing. They just keep losing rotations. It's no one's communicating.
I was gonna say they just leave so many wide open threes, like you said, just letting them leak out like that. It's so upsetting when he's just banging wide open three after wide open three.
Yeah, and it sucks to see because you see it happen. You see it, you're like, oh, he just misses rotation. And he doesn't recover because he doesn't know it. He's not watching until the ball gets moved to the other guy. He's like, oh, shit. So that's been the most frustrating part about watching it. Also, but it is funny, D'Lo actually has less possessions per game than Gobert and McDaniels. They both get more possessions than him. It's pretty crazy. But it makes sense because what their offense is doing is they're putting it more in Cat and Anthony Edwards' hands because they want them most importantly to get going, to get their offense going, which I get. It's probably smart at the beginning if Chris Finch doesn't plan on winning the most games this season. It's probably smart because he's like, hey, you know what? D'Lo will get the ball eventually. He's fine. I'm not worried about him. He just wants to make sure Anthony Edwards and Cat are acclimated too, because Ant's really struggling with Gobert on the floor. I mean, he said that he'd rather play small ball, and I don't think it was a shot at anything. I see he's struggling with Gobert because he has less room. He loved it before because he had all that room to make those dunks because they were playing 5 out. Now they can't play 5 out with Gobert, so he just has less space, so he has to get more creative, and his field goal percentage is taking a dump, and it's just harder for him to get going because it's changing the system that he was just spent the last 2 years getting used to. I think he'll get back to it.
Yeah, but I think he can get back to it. He's had that one really bad game, which was 3 of 15, but he's also had 3 30-point games already this season out of the 5 games they've played. So I think that's pretty encouraging, and certainly think he'll figure it out with Gobert. I mean, I'm not too concerned about that.
I'm not that concerned either. I just see it as it is, and it could. I mean, I really see how they have to fix something before the playoffs, because I can see good teams, great defenses being all right, we see that they're only struggling with this part of their offense. We gotta attack it. So that's certainly something they have to fix completely before they get to the playoffs. Otherwise, that's what took Gobert out in the first place, which tends to go to the Cat and Gobert, which is if they keep trying to stop that, you move to the Cat and Gobert and 2 big men. We'll see how that goes. But so far, I haven't seen the benefits of that yet. I think we could, but they still have a lot to figure out. I still don't think they should have been booed. I don't think you should ever boo your home team. It's just like it's so disheartening. Like they're not gonna want to come out the next game and play. Like I would feel terrible if my own team booed me.
I think that's
get its
easy.
frustration.
I think that's easy for you to say when you weren't there. But the team wasn't putting in any effort, and they were down by 30 to the Spurs at home when they didn't win their home opener after going into overtime against the Jazz. So they fully deserve those boos. And if they don't get that, then they're soft. I mean, most of those guys are making more than $10 million a year. Some of them are making more than $30 million a year. So they can handle some boos.
Yeah,
and they'll come back out and play the next day. And you know what? They did, and they won.
Yeah, but I don't think it was good. I don't think the boos did anything other than just make them not like. I think if you're that upset, just leave. If you want to send a message to them, just leave. Just because they're gonna look up and see those empty stands. I think that's gonna mean more to them than just people booing. If it's really that much where you have to boo, just leave, and they'll get the message. Everyone will leave. Just start.
So I should show that I don't give a shit rather than view my displeasure. I should just show that I don't give a shit rather than show them that I'm mad.
That's not showing you don't give a shit. That's not showing you.
If you leave, it shows you don't care.
No, it shows that you're upset. Like,
shows you're not
and you'll leave.
If you leave, early before the end of the game, like that's fine. That's your choice. But I mean, you can also stay and boo. I mean, either way is fine. It sends both messages, and they deserve both of them because they're millionaires and they can handle it. I think you're soft as well for believing that.
No, you boo these just because they're players that make millions of dollars. They still go to work, and it's still like you're supposed to play for these guys. These are the people.
Their work is basketball.
Okay, I mean, job's a job. If you work something long enough, it still becomes
a job is not a job, Dalton. No, a job is not a job, Dalton. No, it's not. You want to compare playing in the NBA to being an IT manager? You want to pretend like it's the same thing?
Yeah.
Or being a teacher? They're not the same thing.
I mean,
these guys make millions of dollars to play basketball, and they also get months off out of the year to travel the world when they're not playing basketball because they have millions of dollars and they can go wherever they want, whenever they want. The rest, and you know what? They could retire right now if the booing bothers them so much, and then they wouldn't have to hear it again, and they could wipe their tears away with their millions of dollars. Or they could suck it up and come back stronger and try even harder after realizing that, yeah, they didn't put up enough effort, because losing to the Spurs by that much and losing, I mean, I'll give you losing to the Jazz in overtime. That's one thing. That's fine. The Jazz have beaten the Nuggets as well, and they've got some decent players on their team. Losing to the Spurs, being down by 30, going to the fourth quarter, you deserve to get booed. You deserve anything. Honestly, yeah, like I got no problem with boos at all.
Yeah, well, I just think it weighs on the players too much. Whether like you see the effect in Andrew Wiggins. You guys don't like it. No Timberwolf likes Andrew Wiggins. He got booed. I was at a game where he got booed so much for missing free throws. A Timberwolves game where he got booed so much for missing free throws that Robert Covington on the team went like over to where the boos were coming from, and he was like begging them to stop because it was during a game. And he's like, why are you gonna boo a guy? And it weighed on Andrew Wiggins, and he went and found a better role. Like, Timberwolves fans, you guys want to talk about like how he didn't play that for us because he's not. Sure, there's probably a lot of factors, but why would he want to be the player that won the championship with you guys if you just keep booing him?
He didn't get those boos till like his 5th, 6th year in the league after putting up dog shit for years. Boos were absolutely deserved. Maybe not while he's shooting free throws. You should have your guy in those moments, but he straight up became like a replacement level player towards the end of his time with the Timberwolves. And to pretend like that's not true is to just accept that you weren't watching the games at that time, because like he was a horrible player in those last 2 years with the Timberwolves.
I'm not saying he wasn't.
Yeah, and so he deserved the booze. Maybe
I'm
not
saying,
in that moment with Robert Covington when he talked to him, but my general sentiment to Andrew Wiggins is get fucked to him. So
well,
not gonna find much sympathy with me on that one.
I've seen him booed other times, and for me, I didn't see the decline. I mean, he was booed before, and there was tons of like, everyone was like, trade Wiggins. Why would you, like, especially during the Jimmy Butler, which they were right, but like all that stuff weighs on a player. All that stuff weighs on a player, and he's like, I'm sitting here trying to like commit to this team forever, especially a team like Minnesota. If you piss off D'Lo, you piss off Cat, and they just want to leave, you're not getting a free agent. You gotta be so nice to these players. I'm sure you're paying them, but they'll get that money elsewhere. You at least have to be a welcoming environment, because
we should just coddle them forever, hoping they don't leave.
No,
we can't ever give them harsh criticism just because we're Minnesota and we gotta feel like, oh, please don't go.
No, all I'm saying is not. You can criticize them, just not booing your own players during the game.
Well, fuck them. How about that?
I guess.
That sound good?
No, I mean, for me, I guess.
that's my opinion on it. They deserve boos if they play like shit. That's kind of the rules in my book. I think that applies to all sports. Like, I mean, the Minnesota Twins, I think, got booed when they were losing their 17th straight postseason loss, because that shit deserves boos. Some sort of shit deserves boos. And it's true. These players for the Wolves, they haven't experienced all the same sorrow and hardships that the Timberwolves fans have. So they're getting some pent-up emotion in those regards. But at the same time, Carl Anthony Towns is in his 8th season, and he still whines a lot. And he came in weighing less than Anthony Edwards, which is a worse thing for Anthony Edwards because he looked hella sluggish in that game against the Spurs. And then Cat comes out and says that Popeyes thing. Right? That's not coincidence. I mean, you're not conditioning enough. I agree. He maybe shouldn't have done that. But at the same time, Ant comes out with the same mentality like MJ. He likes being criticized. He likes being called out because it puts that fire in him. I mean, literally the next day after that, he put up 31. I mean, he's got that dog in him. And sometimes I think Cat knows that he just kind of has to push Ant that way.
Fair. But so that was that. You guys comment below. Let us know.
That's a wrap for us, guys. Subscribe if you haven't already. We love talking about basketball, and you love listening to us. So it's a match made in heaven, I think.